Let's get creative.
When you open up your drawing kit, what you're going to find is your drawing example of the three-dimensional Rubik's Cube. You'll also have a graphite pencil. You will have a permanent marker. You'll have two different colors of colored pencil. You may have these colors, or you may have red and blue, or purple and yellow, or a different color combination. And then for that shadow, you're going to be using your pencil to create that, but we also will include either a black crayon or a black piece of charcoal. You'll also have a rubber in your kit. Now at home, to draw your Rubik's Cube and to have the right proportions or lengths, we like to use a ruler. If you don't have a ruler at home, you can use a straight edge, or I recommend just purchasing one at our essential store if you don't have one at home. Okay, cool. So we're gonna be drawing this Rubik's Cube to length, and just to make it really easy for us for the dimensions and the correct proportions, we're going to be breaking this Rubik's Cube into 9 centimeter edges. And that will be the easiest number for us to divide our 9 cube into 3 sections. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna rest my cube up against something so it's easier for me to see. So on our paper, oh sorry, in your kit you'll also have a nice A3 thick cardstock, probably 280 grams or 300 gram drawing paper that's more durable than just a copy paper and can withstand your rubber marks. But I recommend when you're doing this drawing to sketch. So use really light lines. We're gonna be drawing our Rubik's Cube closer to the top than bottom. So in the middle, but just slightly up to the top. Okay, so starting with that middle line, I'm gonna be drawing my cube, 90 centimeters. Now, why did I choose 90 centimeters? Because our cube is broken up into 3 blocks on each side, right? There we go. There's a lot of parallel lines when you're drawing a cube. What is a parallel line? Anybody? A parallel line means that these two lines will always run across from each other. They will never intersect. They will never get closer together. They will always run directly across from each other. So when you're drawing a cube, that's important to have the correct proportions. There we go, moving over to the 90 centimeter mark, coming over here, adding that line to the side. I'll just measure out that 90, 90, 90, and now I have my cube on the side, okay? Now because of foreshortening, this cube is gonna be slightly shorter on the top. No, it should be okay. Should be all right. And again, if you're not sure if that line will be correct, start there and move your ruler so it's parallel, okay? What I mean is you're not gonna be drawing a straight line like that, because that line is not parallel to that line. So this side is always going to be parallel to this side, okay? Now I'm just gonna rub that out, drawing lightly again. We don't want to be drawing too hard, because then it'll be really tricky for us to rub it out, right? So that line looks awfully long, doesn't it? It's all right. So now I'm gonna break up my 3 sections. Because we have a perfect cube, every section is gonna be 30 centimeters. So I'm just gonna put a line, or I mean a little dot at my 30 centimeters, okay? Every single parallel line will have your little 30 centimeter dot. And this is going to be really easy for then to connect the dots and get our little Rubik's Cube grid. A lot of my students ask me, how do you draw so well? I want to learn how to draw realistic. Well, this is one way of drawing realistic, is making sure that your proportions are correct. Making sure that the distance between your sections is correct. So using a ruler and having those precise measurements, you can't go wrong. Another little handy tool that I like to use, if I was looking at something, let's say I couldn't pick this piece of paper out, but I wanted to measure it out. What I could do is, from a distance, I could hold the pencil in front of my face and use my thumb to gauge the distance from the top of my pencil to where my thumb is. And that would be one of those cubes here, if this was to size. But I'm drawing it a little bit bigger than what my printer created. There we go. Okay, now I have my little marks. Connect the dots, la la la. Connect the dots, la la la. We used to love connecting the dots when they were a kid. Maybe you are still a kid and you love connecting the dots. When I was a kid, I'm a big kid at heart, obviously, but when I was in primary school and middle school, in America we have middle school, I used to love creating my own connect the dots. So I would draw a picture and then I'd put little dots around it, put little numbers, and then erase my marks and have my friends figure it out. So I guess in a sense I was a little art teacher even early on, back in the day. There we go. Perfect cube. There we go. Our Rubik's Cube. Now the next section we're going to be doing is sectioning these off into little boxes. Okay, so each section is going to have a little rounded square. See, my lines are a little bit wobbly. It doesn't matter because we're going to be filling all of these in, all these lines with black Sharpie, or sorry, a black permanent marker. So I'm just doing this to find that border and those outside edges that I can then come and fill with permanent marker. If you're trying to become a better drawer and draw more realistic, one of my favorite lessons of teaching or telling my customers is to find an artwork or a picture or something in a magazine that you like and turn the picture upside down. It can't be a Rubik's Cube because no matter where you turn the Rubik's Cube, it's always going to be that cube. But if you're drawing a lion, or if you're drawing a, let's say, a house or a car, anything recognizable, I want you to turn that example upside down and draw that object upside down. And you're going to train your eye to not see that object, but instead you'll start to see the actual lines that make up that object. Now, a lot of people get a little overwhelmed starting an artwork because they don't know what lines to start with and how to break it down. Just look for those basic shapes and start small and then get more and more detail as you go along. Okay, so now we have each box sectioned off with a little curve on each section, okay? Now what you can do is now erase. Actually, instead of erasing, change my mind. You just put a little circle. The intersection. And we're gonna leave those white. Why are we gonna leave those white? Because that is going to create that illusion of a reflection. When we start to color in these permanent lines, we'll have those lines, okay? Now it's time to get your permanent marker and start to fill in the gaps. Go around that circle. Take your time. There's nothing worse than rushing an artwork to get it done fast, because I guarantee you the quality of it is not going to be good. Who are you in a rush for? Not me. I'm not forcing you to do this. So take your time. I will challenge you to creating the most realistic Rubik's Cube you've ever done. So when people see your drawing, they're gonna go to pick it up and realize, oh wow, that's a drawing. Take your time. Quality over quantity or quickness. I'm filling in those gaps, going right over those pencil marks, drawing that circle around, right? There we go. If you accidentally cover up one of those circles, don't worry about it. We're gonna cover up some of them anyway because it's not realistic to see all of these perfect circles. So once we get our coloring done, we can pick and choose which ones look like they have a purpose and like they belong there. These markers aren't meant to be used to color big things in big areas, but instead to go slowly. And you'd be surprised at how many markers or textas you have that are actually not ruined. It's just you're coloring with them so quickly that the color doesn't have a chance to seep into the paper. So when you're using any type of ink, marker, pen, Posca pen, go slow. Let that ink seep into the paper. Is there something you guys want to know how to draw? Leave us a little message. Let us know. I'm all for recommendations. I want to help you guys get better at drawing, improve whatever element of your drawing ability. I want to help you improve what you think you want to focus on. So let me know. Is it drawing hands or people or things? Is it getting shading? Maybe it was just a reminder to take your time. Sometimes it's all you need, those little simple things. Excuse me. Have you mastered a Rubik's Cube? I'd love to see who can actually do it. There's some like algorithm to it, isn't there? You can always turn your paper so it's at a place that's going to be comfortable for you. Can I just remind everyone that drawing and creating art is for your own journey. There's nothing such as perfect. You might be really good at something, or your artwork might not look anything like you were hoping for, but it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that you did bad. It meant that that was your attempt and your efforts at the time. I've been creating art for a really long time, and am I perfect? No. Can I improve? Absolutely. Can I improve my teaching? Oh, you know that. Absolutely. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly developing my processes and skills. And I want you to do the same. I want you to understand that the more you do it, the better you're going to get. It's not an overnight skill. When I was a kid, I used to pause the Disney movies. So back in the day when I was a child, the popular Disney movies were The Lion King, The Little Mermaid. And what I would do is pause the VHSs. I don't even know if you guys would even know what that is, but I would pause those videos and I would draw the characters from the screen. And I'd be sitting on the couch, drawing on the coffee table for hours and hours. And that sole activity of me constantly looking at new positions of the characters, drawing a different perspective of them, that helped me grow and helped me in my drawing ability. I trained my eyes and my hands to work together. And that's what you have to do too. So find something that you like, whether it's comic books or magazines or even your own photographs. It's the best beginning step of learning to draw, is drawing from observation. Then you can move into still lifes and drawing by looking at something that's on the table. A still life means something that's still. So you could get, if you have a real Rubik's Cube at home, I highly recommend getting it and looking at it while you do this. My dog, unfortunately, thought the Rubik's Cube was for her. So we don't have a Rubik's Cube anymore. I think we even found one of the pieces in our little in our little toy box. Just one piece. I think it was even a lucky blue. Yes, she chomped it. So I was just going back in and noticing these are quite bold in between. So I'm going to be moving my paper and making all of those lines similar. So they all make sense and they all work together, right? Good. Now I'm going to add the color. So I'm going to leave one side white, and I'm going to leave one, I'm going to start coloring one side and then add color to the other side. With my pencil, I'm tilting it on the side. I'm not holding it upright, because what that does is make more lines. So this Bringing your pencil on the side gives it a softer look. Is your Rubik's Cube going to be complete? I was thinking about doing some green on this side with the orange and then moving the last two pieces of orange into my green. But I think I'm going to keep it consistent. Because that black is so bold, the permanent marker stands behind the orange. You can just color straight over. Sorry, I got a little crazy. See? Take your time. I got a little bit crazy and my orange snuck out of the lines. Keep your color inside the lines. Aim. Practice what you preach, right? Now, I don't think all of those white circles look realistic. So I might even take my black marker. Scribble some of them in. Or crayon. All right. Now, I'm going to leave that right side white. I'll grab my green. Try to color with the same pressure in all of your cubes, all of your squares. So one square doesn't look drastically darker or lighter than the rest of the cube. So it still maintains that realism. All right, there we go. Actually, I think I'm gonna come back over with this green. Give it one more layer. Did you notice how I turned my paper and I'm coloring from a different direction? You'll see why, because now that green looks complete. It looks filled in and it's a nice coverage of color. Okay, so I'll take a permanent marker. I don't think What do you think, guys? Just filling in some of those circles. So we still want those reflections, but just not perfect circles, right? Okay, how are we going to make this cube look realistic? It's this shadow. So when you pick something up, let's say this, I'm going to be lifting up that box and it's going to create this beautiful shadow directly underneath, okay? So looking at our example, taking your pencil. This little angle is going to be coming out of this first square. It's going to be about a cube long. I'm going to make it parallel to this one, but bring that shadow. So directly under the cube is going to be the darkest part. So I want you to do similar to how we colored with our colored pencil. See how I'm holding the pencil on the side and I'm getting a nice, soft, smooth coverage right there. Okay. Have you ever smudged graphite? Similar to charcoal, you can get a soft effect. Using the oils of your fingers, you can kind of smudge it. So you're gonna give a nice, even coverage, but then as you start to come out to the outside, it's gonna be a little bit softer. By softer, I mean lighter. Okay. So what you can do is just start rubbing that with your finger. Blending it, smoothing it. Haha. Come back in. Directly under that cube, I'm going to press a little bit harder. Get some more of those darker values. Coming in with our charcoal. The only bad thing about charcoal is that if it's not a vine charcoal, like this is compressed, it doesn't have a smooth surface like that graphite. Okay, so you see the difference between that graphite. Because I added that charcoal, I'm actually going to keep going. So when you're using your rubber and charcoal, it acts as a blending tool. With graphite, the other end, that's when you can rub it off, but only when it's clean. So if you have either a piece of sandpaper or a piece of cloth or even leather, I have a really dirty butcher paper under my working surface, so I'm just able to clean that rubber off by rubbing some of that charcoal and that graphite off of my rubber, coming back in and rubbing that off. a different piece of charcoal. This will allow me to get a nice coverage and smooth it out. So using my fingers, it's a good tool to use when blending and smoothing. And try to keep that shadow with a crisp edge. Try not to make that edge too fuzzy, because a shadow has a nice crisp edge when you lift an object up, and it has that direct light. So you want to capture that crisp edge directly under the cube. If it's a little bit lighter, it goes out. If you can look at my drawing compared to my shadow, what's wrong with it? And I notice a huge problem with this line of my shadow is not parallel to that line. And that's a big problem because that's not realistic. So we're going to be bringing this down. And what I'm gonna do is give it a nice rubber mark. So I know everything from that side. It's gonna be rubbed away. Are those lines parallel? Let's make sure they are. What shape are we drawing? A cube, so we don't want it too rectangular. Checking out my proportions. Do they look right? A little bit too long here. Another tip, take a step back from your artwork. Check out what the lines are doing from a distance. I think this line needs to come down a little bit more, hey? just giving it a little more value just under the Rubik's Cube, because that's going to be a little bit darker an area. Woo! What do you think? Dirty hands. Next step, if you want this to look even more realistic, what you can do is cut directly across. So we're going to take our ruler and I'll draw that horizon line. Through there. I'm going to continue that straight across. And over on the right side. Now we're going to get scissors and cut. You can leave it as is. It just gives it that one more realistic addition. Don't cut off your black border. And cut as close to the edge as you can. Please wash your hands before you do this. Otherwise, your artwork will look like mine with all these little fingerprint smudges. You're not in a rush for anybody, so take your time. Keep your surface clean. Voila. The cube. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect this time. It's only going to get better and better every time you create. Have fun.